So I recently used ChatGPT to help me develop a loose weekly schedule that I'm going to be trying out this week. I'm hoping it can bring a little balance to the ADHD chaos of my life. And as of now, I have 4 big goals. Number 1, to improve the amount of uploads that you see on this very channel. Number 2, to finish my sci-fi novel, Sexbot Uprising. 3, to spend less time glued to the TV and a little bit more time with my nose in a book. And 4, to improve my body in the following respects. Gain some muscle, right? Get a little bit bigger of a butt. If for no other reason than just to hold my pants up a little better. Increase my physical stamina as well. I think that would be very useful. Notice I did not say anything about losing weight. That's not an omission. I just don't really care about that very much right now. If I happen to lose a little body fat in my pursuit of strength and cake, then so be it. But if I don't, I ain't crying about it. I'm also currently working with 2 different artists to complete a sequel to my erotic comic Going Ham, which is available pinned to my mostly defunct Twitter page. I'm never going to call it what Elon Musk rebranded it, by the way. I'm done with that. It's Twitter. Going Ham 2 is going to be dirtier, more sadistic, more offensive than its predecessor, but I'm not satisfied with that. I'm also working on a script for the 3rd installment, Going Ham 3, which I'm going to once again push the concept even further. And once all those are complete, I think I'm going to try to find like a third party to print it all. I know there's some companies that'll, print like adult material. So hopefully I can find one of those that'll print it cheap enough that I can sell it at a profit. Maybe even start like sending those out to some like furry cons or even some anime cons or whatever. Anywhere where they sell weird stuff to horny people. Maybe I'll try to break into those markets, The only other thing I want to talk about before we get to the point of this video is I am going to be in Las Vegas in October 6th at a venue called The Space. I'm going to be there with my deep fat fried co-hosts, Paul's Ego and Scotty. We're going to be doing a live show. We're going to have an opening band called the God Bombs. Here's a little sample of them. I was sick! Now I'm just sick of repeating it. I wanna flush the blood down the drain and let the wine ride. Very early era Marilyn Manson sound to their stuff there, I think, which suits me just fine. And after they perform, you're going to get the DFF live show. It's going to feature a ton of audience participation and comedy and so on. And after that show is done, we're going to spend the rest of the night mingling with the crowd, taking pictures, getting hammered, causing both a ruckus and a fracas, which I think is fun. We got the venue for at least 6 hours, but the lady running the place told me that as long as the bar continues selling drinks, she's pretty much never going to kick us out. So this could be an all-night rager. So get your tickets now. VIP tickets, unfortunately, are already sold out, but we still have a pretty decent amount of general admission tickets available as of this date, but I will warn you, they are going kind of fast. So I would go ahead and get those sooner rather than later because there is a pretty distinct possibility that we could sell out this month. Now, make a little vacation of it, Come to our meetup. But you can also, check out some other stuff around the town. It's Vegas, for fuck's sake. You can play some slots. You can catch a magic act or some kind of crazy show. Do what you want. It's Vegas. You can go out in the desert, shoot some guns. You can go to one of those whorehouses out there in the desert somewhere. I don't care. Do what you want. If you've got even like an inkling that you want to come, you probably should, because who knows? It's been years since we've done a meetup. It might be years since we do one again. Hopefully it won't, but it very well might be. Tickets are available down below in that description section. Okay, so now that we are through the long and tedious spiel, we can actually talk about some stuff. So if you give a narcissist like me, attention for long enough, he's bound to start thinking of himself as some kind of half-baked philosopher. So with that in mind, I went on Google, I typed in philosophical questions. The very first result is called 255 philosophical questions to spark deep critical thinking. So I figured I'd take a crack at all 255 of them, see how I do. But that's a lot of questions. So we're going to, we don't want to necessarily do a video of all 255. So I'm going to split this into multiple videos. And, we might not even get past this one. Maybe we'll do this. It'll suck. It'll be boring. And you guys will be like, nah, don't do any more. And that's fine. You gotta experiment with content, throw different stuff out there, see what works, see what doesn't work. But today we're going to answer questions 1 through 58 on the subjects of behavior and love. And we're not going to go too far in depth with these questions. We're just going to, offer sort of a generalized answer. And maybe we'll expound on some of them in the future, but whatever. Anyway, you ready? Let's do this. Questions 1 through 58, starting now. First question is, what is the difference between good and bad people? So in my opinion, the labels good and bad are assigned by biased third parties who have complex interests in different outcomes and different strategies for how to achieve said outcomes. Hence why a certain percentage of the country can look at someone like Donald Trump and think he's like the savior America needs, whereas most of us, myself included, look at him and see like a repugnant turd that needs to be flushed, right? Is it essential to be a good person? It is essential to be an effective person that is seen by one's own peer group as being good. But in the process of doing so, you're almost certainly going to be seen as bad by other people who belong to different groups. What makes people feel more attached to some people than others? Oxytocin, I believe, is the answer to that. Is tribalism or looking out for others like you innately good, bad, or neutral? I think it's neutral because there are no innate moral values. My personal answer is that it's bad because tribalism discourages independent thinking and promotes, I think, superficial evaluations of complex problems. If one existed apart from other humans, would they still value goodness? No, because the concept would be fundamentally useless to such a person. Are there moral commonalities amongst diverse people, groups, and cultures? I mean, yes. Most human societies revile rape and murder, for instance, though there are some gray areas. Like a society may find it socially acceptable for their soldiers to rape the women of the enemy during a war campaign, for example. Like this was the norm throughout much of antiquity. It's even referenced as morally acceptable in the Bible. In the American Old West, it may have been socially permissible at times to murder someone for cheating at cards. Generally speaking, you wouldn't really accept that as morally good today. But these behaviors, pretty much, aside from a few little exceptions like that, have always been condemned, prescribed across varying cultures and subcultures throughout human history. Because, a society that's just like, yeah, murder and rape all you want, probably not going to be a very successful society. Probably going to snuff itself out pretty damn quick. Are individuals important, and if so, in what ways? So setting aside the subjectivity of the word important, I'll answer it like this. If a society is striving for happiness, it's impossible to have a happy collective if you don't have happy individuals. If a society is pursuing something like military supremacy, the happiness of individuals matters less, but the toughness of individuals matters more. So no matter what society is building towards, if you don't have individuals that exemplify the required attributes, that society is not going to succeed in building that as a collective. So, yeah, individuals are important in that sense. So are human beings more important than animals? Why or why not? I mean, yes, because they're us, and we're the ones doing the accounting, right? If we were dogs, we would think dogs are more important. Are some people more important than others? I mean, this is going to be relative to the observer, right? So, like, for example, if I'm hungry, the sandwich maker is more important than the doctor. But if I'm shot, you can go ahead and reverse that, right? Is the death penalty right or wrong? Neither. For the same reasons of subjectivity that make a lot of this section kind of tedious for me to answer. But I kind of wish these questions were phrased like a little differently. Like, instead of saying, is the death penalty right or wrong? If it said, do you think the death penalty is right or wrong? Then I could just, I don't have to preface everything by like, oh, this is subjective. Oh, this is subjective. But whatever. I'll try to do a little less of that as we go, I guess, and just, you know, answer my own personal feelings rather than having to constantly remind you that I think things are subjective. If I was answering that question, though, I would say, yes, it's wrong. I don't think that killing, you know, someone who is already like a neutralized threat is really justified. I think human beings, you know, in a general way should treat each other with kindness and dignity, even if someone is like socially aberrant to the point where they can't even follow the basic rules of society and are out there murdering and stuff. You know, I don't think that you want to condone that activity for obvious reasons, because that's socially deleterious. But if you have captured them and you've caged them and they're away from others and they can no longer do harm, I think that you've gone far enough. I don't think you need to take the extra step of doing harm to them, because I think it's still wrong. What should be the repercussions for wronging someone else? Well, that kind of depends upon the nature of the wrong and the goals of the society wherein the wrong was committed. Like, what harm has the individual in question wrought? Like, can they be compelled to make amends for that action in a way that mitigates the original harm? So if that's possible, then they should be compelled to do that. If it's not possible, we should ask, like, are they likely to continue to do harm in this way if left unimpeded? If not, then really no action is necessary. If so, it may be prudent to like re-educate them. And if it's not possible to do that, then it may be necessary to either banish or quarantine them. Quarantine meaning like put them away from the rest of society in like a mental institution or a prison or something like that. What is wisdom? Wisdom to me is like the application of knowledge gained through experience and observation and questioning rather than through some sort of formal education. Is wisdom a helpful tool? It can be, for sure. But, you know, atypical life experiences can lead to atypical wisdom, and wisdom may be very specialized. Like, a man who has wisdom about the sea is not necessarily going to be wise in the forest, right? Wisdom can kind of be limited by the scope and range of what that person has experienced in their life. So you should always keep in mind that limitation. But I mean, all knowledge is limited. Why is wisdom often associated with age? I think that's obvious, because older people have more experience, right? If a person has an accident and is no longer able to contribute to society, has their value as a person decreased, increased, or stayed the same? So by my reckoning, society and individuals that, you know, make up society, they need to be sort of in a mutually beneficial arrangement, because like a society where the individuals don't serve the collective really has no collective. A society where the collective doesn't serve the individuals just produces miserable labor with minimal contentment, because it's working towards goals that don't actually better its people. I would consider America pretty far down that horrible path, to be honest with you. But not every individual is capable of serving the collective to the same degree. That's why I sort of think that like old adage of each according to their ability, each according to their need. From each according to their ability and to each according to their need. I think that's like a fundamentally sound idea, but there are some criticisms I would put forth of it, but like I don't really want to do that necessarily like right here, right now, because that would take a minute. I think that could almost be a video of itself on its own. So whatever, we'll move on. The next question is, can people change? The idea that people can't change, to me, is like sort of the stupidest notion that human beings ever cooked up. And you hear this stuff just kind of tossed around very low. People don't change. People can't change. The reality is that, you know, not only can people change, I defy people to stay the same. Like, change is inevitable. Even the atoms that make up a person's physical body are constantly like in a state of flux. Nothing is static. You're not the same person that you were when I started this sentence, in my opinion. You can't step in the same river twice, kind of thing. How does one become a good person? Like, if you make yourself useful to a group of people, they're going to see you as good. That's it. If someone's personality changes, does that mean they have also changed? I mean, no shit. That's a change. Can you ever honestly know another person? I mean, I think, can you ever even honestly know yourself? I don't even think the answer to that is yes. So I'd have to say no. If someone's intentions were good, but the outcome of an action is terrible, at that moment, is that person good or bad? I think this question is pretty close to being entirely meaningless. But I guess if I have to answer it, intentions matter less than results. The person is likely going to be perceived as bad if they do an action that is the outcome of the action is terrible. Even if they're like, I thought I was doing good. Well, you're so stupid that you messed up. If someone does a kind deed but has a selfish motive, does that impact the goodness of the deed? I mean, this comes up a lot when you see people doing good things for clout. But in my opinion, if you feed a homeless man and you did it only for social media clout or whatever, his belly is still full, so who cares? I don't give a shit. When babies are born, are they good? No, they're screaming little idiots. If identical twins grew up never knowing each other, how similar and different would they be? Like, this isn't really philosophy. The twin studies are very common at this point. This has been studied extensively. Twins who grow up in different environments tend to grow into very similar adults with like similar careers, similar style of dress, similar interests, etc. So this is settled science in my opinion. Is there ever a justifiable reason to kill someone? I mean, in my opinion, killing is only justified in self-defense or if the other person has like knowingly consented to be put in the risk of death. Like, hey, we're going to do this very dangerous, sport or whatever, and you might die. Do you consent to that? Do you understand the risk? Yes. Okay. I think that's fair. Are people born with specific personalities, or is the character the result of circumstances? Once again, this is not really philosophical. Science has answered this. Much of a person's personality is determined by genetics. Is lying ever a good thing? Well, I mean, is lying ever useful? Obviously it is. And since a lot of times when human beings say good, what they really mean, a lot of the time, not always, is useful. Yes, lying can be good. If you steal money but use it to save someone's life, does that justify the theft? Well, in my opinion, yes, it does. Like, if I could wave a magic wand and deprive every single billionaire on earth of all their wealth and then use it to feed and clothe and shelter the world's poor, I'd do it without hesitation or compunction. Also, I would probably keep a little bit for myself. Like, let's be real. Should someone being ignorant be a valid excuse for their rudeness? I mean, I think this kind of depends. Like, if the ignorance is genuine, like they just didn't know, and then they're corrected and, maybe they have some questions, but generally speaking, their correction is met with contrition, then yes. If their ignorance is willful and your attempts at correcting them is met with just more resistance and obstinance, then no. It's obviously not at that point. Can we choose our emotions, or do they happen to us? I think that we are largely powerless to control our feelings in the short term, but I think we are capable of changing our intellectual perspectives on things, and that can change how we emotionally react. So I think we have control of our emotions to an extent, but I think it's over a longer term, and I think it's more based on coming to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our interactions with the world and why we experience the emotions we do, and so on and so forth. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. So what is love? Dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin, that kind of shit. How do you know you're loved? Well, the person who loves you is typically going to enjoy spending time with you, going to enjoy doing things with you, show concern for your emotional and physical well-being. They're going to empathize with you more strongly than they do with others, that kind of stuff. How do you know that you love someone? Well, just reverse engineer the shit that I just said a second ago, and you pretty much got the answer to that. Is the desire to be loved an innate human desire? I mean, in neurotypical people, sure, I think it is. Why do people desire love? I'm getting kind of impatient with how dumb some of these questions are. Why do people desire love? Because it feels good. Having a partner or partners is stimulating, gratifying, and useful. If you're sick, they can take care of you. If you're sad, they can uplift you. If you're horny, they can fuck you. If you're lonely, they can accompany you. So, I mean, obviously, it's not a mystery. There's not like, oh, for millennia, man has pondered. Shut up. It's obvious why people desire love. Does love necessitate action, or can it simply exist as a feeling? I mean, it doesn't necessitate action, but oftentimes it does sort of promulgate it, right? In what ways are love, lust, and sexual desire different from one another? Well, lust and sexual desire are the same thing. Love is different than sexual desire because it connotes an attachment that isn't necessarily sexual in nature. Is an understanding of pain necessary to appreciate love? No. Does the loss of love change one's outlook on life? Yeah, I would say it probably typically does. Can one show love without first being loved? Is love an intrinsic aspect of human nature or a reciprocated act? Another stupid question, because if love was only reciprocal, then no one would ever fall in love. You know? I mean, that's just self-defeating, right? Are there different forms of love, such as parental, friendship, or romantic, or are they all diverse expressions of the same substance? Like, this is like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Like, there are different forms of love, but they all ultimately are called love. And so I think this question is kind of more semantic in nature than it is about love as a thing. Can romantic love for one person last forever? No, because human beings don't live forever. So kind of hard to love someone forever if you're going to die, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Can love ever be a bad thing? I mean, obviously it can. A high school teacher falling in love with her student is generally seen as a bad thing. A man falling in love with a woman other than his wife when he is in a monogamous relationship, generally seen as a bad thing. A person who falls in love with someone who does not have any mutual affection for them, especially if they like actively dislike them, that can be a very negative experience for both parties involved. So yeah, there are plenty of instances where love is a bad thing. How does unreciprocated love affect people? Well, I think in a lot of cases, it can really push people to absolute derangement, desperation, totally skew their entire thought process. It doesn't necessarily do any of that stuff, but it can. I mean, we've all seen that happen. What does falling in love mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? It means the beginning of love. Like when you just first start loving someone. Like, who wrote this shit? Wouldn't it have been better to come up with like 10 really good questions as opposed to 255 really crappy basic bitch ones? I don't know. What causes someone to fall in love? Big butts. That's my answer. That's my real answer. Does love feel different to different people? Probably. Is love, health, or money more important? I mean, in a country with no universal health care, I think health might be more important. In a country with universal health care, probably love. Can you choose to feel love for someone? I doubt it, but different human beings have different abilities, and maybe someone could choose that. I personally don't think that I could. That's my basis of that answer. Does being loved by more people correlate to a person's value? I think in the view of society, it kind of seems to. In my view, no, but I don't really know that human beings have any sort of inherent or measurable value. I think we just value ourselves because we're us. Is there a difference in depth of love versus quantity of love? Yep. To love someone well, do you need to show their love how they want to be loved, or can you love them the way you naturally show love? I think in this one, you got to kind of have some middle ground. People have different like so-called love languages. So people should definitely be cognizant of how their partner gives and receives love and make adjustments based on those factors. I think there has to be some give and take on that one. Is there the one? I mean, I am polyamorous, pansexual, so for me, Nah. What does it mean to love yourself? Like, it means you like being around yourself. You take care of yourself. You appreciate yourself. You buy yourself flowers, you know? You take yourself on dates. And you go fuck yourself, right? Do you need love? I'm sorry, do you need to love yourself before you can love others? Need to? No, but I generally think it's probably a pretty good idea. Is loving yourself selfish? I mean, it is, but selfishness can be appropriate at times. This idea that selfishness is always bad, I think, is a problematic idea. I think it depends on the extent of the selfishness and how you prioritize yourself over others and so on and so forth. But I don't think all selfishness is inherently a negative trait. Is it essential to have a friendship with your partner? I mean, being in love with someone that you don't like kind of seems like a recipe for misery to me. So I think it's probably a good idea to have a functional friendship with your partner or partners. If your partner grew up in an abusive household, are you more understanding of unhealthy behavior? I mean, typically speaking, and it obviously kind of boils down to a lot of like personality types and traits and things of that nature, but typically I think loving someone should involve having a greater degree of empathy and understanding for them. So yes. And if you can't bring that to the table, then if you're, you know, planning on having a partner that has some sort of like PTSD or trauma or something like that, then you might want to think twice. Like, if you can't extend that greater degree of empathy and understanding, then maybe that's not the partner for you, regardless of how you feel. Would you rather be respected or loved? Well, by like a stodgy old professorial type, respected. By a big-butted blonde bimbo, loved. All right. That brings us to the end of this first round of questions. I'm not sure when or even if I will continue with this. I found a large percentage of those questions to be pretty goddamn insipid and asinine, but that doesn't mean you didn't enjoy it. So if you did, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below. And if it's not too much trouble, I'd always appreciate stuff like giving this a thumbs up and doing all the other things that, you know, like interact with a video, because like the more you engage with a video, the more YouTube, you know, takes notice of that, the more times they put me in other people's feeds and show me to people and stuff like that. So any sort of level of interaction you can have with this video, whether it be thumbs up or comment or whatever, all very useful to me. Appreciate it tremendously when you guys do that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I won't take up any more of your time for today. Thanks for watching. Have a great one. Peace.